Hey, what's up, guys?
What's going on?
I'm Isaac,
And I'm Latoya.
and we are
LF on the move.
Legit Foodie. So we're here. We have an amazing topic to talk with you guys about today.
Yes.
Something that's very important.
Very important, and that is
Leaving your home country. I was gonna say how to leave, but really it's leaving your home country.
Yep.
It's a two-part video, so we're gonna give you some info in this one and another video. And without much further ado, we're gonna get right into it.
Let's jump right in. Okay, so first things first, you want to consider even the possibility of leaving.
Nice.
You want to let your imagination run wild for a little bit. Think about what your life would be like if you lived somewhere else, in a different country, in a different city, a different state. Just start to imagine how you would feel, the differences that that would be, the changes that you would make, and come to what your why is. Are you leaving because you want to establish a new career? Are you leaving because you want to have a different experience? Are you leaving just because you're tired and you want to try something new? That why, that reason is going to be the thing that drives you as you continue to plan. So make sure you come up with a really good why, or a really good set of whys, and maybe more than one reason as to why you want to make this change and why you want to live abroad. So again, don't be afraid to consider any possibility, no matter how wild it is, consider it.
As Bay said, you definitely have to have your why, get your imagination out there. But after that, you gotta start getting down to the nitty-gritty, right? We think a great idea, pick your date, right? Even if it's 2 years out, maybe it's a year out, pick a date. We say that because if you pick a date, it becomes tangible.
Yeah.
Right? Once it's tangible, you have a date, and now you know, okay, I have X amount of time to actually get this done, and this will be all the other steps we go through. But I have X amount of time to get this done in order to be able to really physically leave the country on this particular day.
Yeah.
Right? It sounds funny, but it literally will help you. Otherwise, it's just a theory. It's just something that you're having fun thinking about. But if it's something you actually want to accomplish, you gotta put it down on paper, in a computer, whatever, however you choose to do it, right? You have to do that.
Absolutely. I mean, that's basically what we did. We decided on a time frame. We picked a date, and we worked backwards from there. The odd time frame was a little bit shorter than what yours might be because we were ready to go at that point.
Super ready.
But once you pick your date, work backwards from there, and like you said, write it down, make a checklist so that you can make your dream become a reality of leaving.
Exactly. So next we want to talk about something that should seem obvious, but it never hurts to talk about it. You have to look at the pros and cons of leaving, right? There are definitely going to be benefits to you leaving, and there may be negatives to you leaving as well. So I'll go through the positives real quick, and these are obviously just generalities. What new experiences might you come across if you leave the country? Like if you go to some place that you've never been, you're gonna experience things you've never experienced. That goes for the culture, which could also be a con, depending on what you are, what you like. The food. We have been loving the food.
Best part.
Out of the country. Best part. We done gain weight. Like
talk about it.
It's wonderful, right? Besides the food, what opportunities might arise for you in leaving the country, right? These are all positives, right? But then there are also negatives that might be associated with it, right? So just think of your positives, and at the same time, or not the same time, then think of what the negatives could be associated. For example,
leaving your family. That's definitely a big con for some people. For some people, it might be a pro. But leaving your family, leaving your friends is definitely a con because, for example, we are 12 hours right now away from at least my family. And so it can be difficult to find times to talk. Their daytime is my nighttime, vice versa. So it's not impossible, but it just adds another layer of complexity. There's also culture shock. You come to a new place and you're expecting it to be, rainbows and sunshine. And sometimes when you settle in, you realize this ain't for me. And so that's actually how I wouldn't necessarily call it culture shock, but there were definitely some places that we thought were going to be amazing. And they weren't terrible, but they just weren't our cup of tea. And,
Thanks.
We just decided to move on from there. And then there are the legal complexities of staying in whatever country that you decide to land in. You have to, consider your visa options, consider your status, how long you want to stay. So all of those things can be cons, and they can sort of interrupt your daily life. But so you should definitely consider them when considering your plan to move, because they are going to impact you in that way.
Exactly. And I'll piggyback real quick, especially with the legal, everybody's laws are not the same.
That's right.
Things that might be fine in the country that you're leaving may not be fine in the country that you're going to.
Correct.
And you don't want to end up on an episode of Locked Up Abroad.
Don't be there.
Okay? Don't be that person. Make sure you know the rules of where you want to go to.
Exactly. So once you've made your pro and con list, you want to make sure that the benefits outweigh the drawbacks of leaving. Obviously, you don't want to go somewhere where it's like, there's too many cons than pros. And so make your list, compare, think about it again, and then make your decision if you really want to leave.
Yeah, exactly. Again, it's something that sounds so simple, but when you actually sit down and start doing those comparisons, especially with other points that we're going to make later in the video, you'll realize it may be like, oh, you know what? I do still want to leave, but I can't do it right away.
Yeah.
Maybe I need to wait some time. Maybe I need to see how the climate changes. And I'm not talking about weather, how the climate changes in my country or in the country I want to go to.
Right.
Maybe next year is a better time. Right now, such and such is happening with their politics, and it's a hotbed, it's a dangerous place to go. You got to check all of these things. So it's just something to be aware of, and that pro and con list can really help make it clear when you have it down on paper.
Even if you land someplace and it ends up not being what you think it is, you can go back to that pro and con list and start over and start researching somewhere else.
So in talking about researching, this is a huge part of trying to leave the country. Think about the research that you do when you just want to go on vacation, right? And you're just looking for a good hotel, a good area to be in for the 1 or 2 weeks you're going to go away for. Imagine you're uprooting your life and you're leaving the country. That tells you the importance of researching, right? You want to look at safety of the place that you're going. How safe is it? Again, we spoke about opportunities as a pro earlier, but what opportunities would you have going there? Does it make sense for you? The culture. Is the culture something that you can accept? Is it going to vibe with you as a person? Or are you going to go there and you're going to feel, this is not for me, why did I come here, right? It's something you have to look at before you get there. Language. Do they speak the language that you speak? If they don't speak the language that you speak, are you willing to learn their language? Are you comfortable using a translation app for everything, right? Do they speak your language, but it's not the main language, so you might find some people who speak it. All of these are considerations you have to look at and say, okay, is this something I am willing to deal with, accept, live within, right?
That's right.
It's very important. And research, you have to do your research.
And in researching, there are so many tools, websites, people at your fingertips. You can go on the government websites of the places that you want to visit, places that you're considering. For the real deal, look at other YouTubers. See what it's like, boots on the ground, so to speak, to see what the daily life is of people who are living in the locations that you are considering. There are many factors, like they said, that you want to consider: your culture, language, food. Some people have food allergies, may or may not be considered in the country that you're going to. Some people are LGBTQIA+. You want to make sure that the country that you're going to is going to be welcoming to you, especially if you're looking for a relationship. If you're looking for a relationship, what is it like dating in that country? So all those things you can find, again, on YouTube. People write blogs. Use those tools as resources, because they will become very important, especially for real-time information. I won't get into too many details now, but during COVID, those Facebook groups, Reddit communities, they were a godsend for getting real-time information. Because although the government websites were really good for the rules and regulations and processes, they weren't as good for real-time information in terms of how is it like actually living there. Right. So use all those resources to your advantage while you're doing your research.
When we were first getting ready to leave the States, I love my wife. She's amazing. She is the research queen.
I'm the research queen, okay?
Okay, she can find anything. She should be a private eye, honestly, right? She did so much research for Merida.
Oh yeah.
Mexico.
That was our first place that we considered leaving or going to.
Yeah. Again, Thailand was always the goal, but they were close.
Right.
So when we decided on Mexico, they started
We were
doing
going to Merida.
research, and
You
it
couldn't
was.
tell us we weren't.
So when that changed, what was it? Was it a month before we left?
We
2 weeks?
hadn't purchased our flights yet, and it was about a month. Now, our planning process was about 6 months long.
Yeah.
And for 5 months, basically, we were like, oh, we're going to Merida. We were looking up places, we were looking up locations. And then every video we watched in Merida, everybody was sweating.
Hard.
Everybody was sweating bullets.
Pouring.
Everybody was hot. Everybody was shiny. And we were like, how hot is it really? And it's hot.
Very hot. And I'm not,
You know,
I mean, yes, we live in Thailand. It's a whole nother, don't even worry about that. But I did not like the idea of hot, right?
Yeah.
You know, again, I told y'all before, we're originally from New York, and I'm used to like cold winters and then hot summers. But not super hot all the time.
almost year round. And the humidity, I think that was the other part. It was the heat and the humidity. And so
Changed our minds.
Yeah, our research and looking at those other YouTubers, thank you, we pivoted. And we were like, we're still going to Mexico, but let's
Yeah.
go to Guadalajara instead.
Yep, we went to GDO because being by the water, it was just too much.
It was just too hot. And
Yeah.
mosquitoes and
I hate mosquitoes. So yeah, so I say that just to bring up the fact that we're talking about research. Sometimes you can do all that research and still not find what you wanted, because
Exactly.
everything else
seemed
about
great.
Merida was wonderful, but that heat was not going to be
Yeah,
it.
and we went back to our pro and con list and realized that was a big deal for us, so we just
We
changed.
pivoted.
That's right.
So research.
And so in talking about research, the things that you should consider, first things first, cost of living. Can you afford the country that you are interested in?
Facts.
Okay, if you can't afford it, boo, you can't go. So you want to make sure that the cost of living is going to be in a range that's going to be comfortable for you. And that's going to go from rent, of course, transportation, food, all those things you have to budget for. And so that is definitely should be top priority of things that you need to consider. The climate, we were just talking about Merida in terms about weather. Do you want to go someplace hot? Do you want to go someplace cold? Do you want to go someplace that has seasons? And also seasons mean different things in different parts of the world. So here it's just like a sort of a wet and a dry season.
Super
Right.
dry.
Clearly.
Talk about burning season.
Yeah, we don't have snow here, so there's no winter, so to speak. But there is a winter. It's just not the winter that we experienced in the
States.
East Coast. Exactly. Things like healthcare. What options do you have for healthcare? Do you have a chronic illness? Will you be able to get that treated? Will you be able to get medications in the place that you're going? And how easy is it to get those medications? So these are all things that you want to consider while you're making your list and you're doing your research.
Another thing to consider is community, right? Whatever country you're leaving, you probably have friends, family, people you care about that you're leaving, right? So that's already one part of it. The other part of it, will you be able to find community where you're going or where you want to go, right? Will you be able to find people that have the same interests as you? Will you be able to find people who think like you think or don't think like you think, or whatever it is you're looking for, will you be able to find it in the place that you're going?
Right.
That harkens back to research, right? Because you can look that up before you get there. You can look, if you love photography, you can go online and look for photography groups in XYZ and see if there'll be people there that, kind of align with the things that you enjoy. Be aware that it is quite possible you go and you don't find it, right? So if you can't find that community, are you going to be okay?
Yeah.
That's something you really have to think about. If I can't find my people, am I going to be all right in this new country, basically by myself, right?
Right.
So it's something to think about. It's something that's super important.
Visa options. It is critical to your leaving journey, if you are planning to be someplace for an extended period of time, you need to research what the visa options are in the country that you plan to land in.
Super fast.
Does it give a visa on arrival? Do they give a 10-day visa, a 30-day visa, a 90-day visa? Are there options for citizenship? Are there pathways for citizenship or permanent or temporary residency? These are things that you definitely need to consider. And it's so important. We'll talk about it more in our next video, but I think it's so important that we may do a separate video on just visa and residency options in another
standalone video.
Yeah.
It's super important.
Yeah.
You know, if there are, you know, 3 things that are important when it comes to deciding to leave the country, visa options is probably number 2 after deciding to go.
Yeah.
Right? Because if you can't get the visa to go to the country or stay in the country,
you'll be home.
You'll be home. So it's super important.
Yes.
Super important.
Another thing to consider is, are you planning a short-term stay or a long-term stay? Even though you're planning to leave, you might be a person that says, you know what, I just want to spend 6-9 months out of the country, but I'm planning to come back. Or you could be the person that says, look, I'm leaving, and I'm only planning to come back to visit family and friends or to go back and check on my property. But I'm planning to be out of my home country basically permanently. So it's just something else to consider. You know, they're what they call snowbirds, the people who are retirement. They just leave for a few months, but they're coming back home. Maybe you're planning to be a snowbird.
So with that, there are some things to consider. If you are trying to just be gone, only coming back to visit, does it make sense for you to renounce your citizenship, right? There are pros and cons to doing that. In the US, if you decide to leave the country but you don't renounce, you'll be paying taxes.
Correct.
As if you still lived in the country.
That's right.
Forever.
That's right.
Like, that's just what it is. But if you renounce your citizenship, there are cons to that as well.
Correct.
Right? Okay, yeah, you don't pay taxes. You don't have a US passport anymore.
Right.
If you want to come to the US, you are subject to the same basic rules and stipulations that a non-citizen is subject to.
Right.
Right? And if you do renounce your citizenship, can you get citizenship where you're going so that at least you have citizenship somewhere, right? So it's a lot to consider, and I guess that's the point of this particular section, right? It's things to consider. Just something to think about.
Yeah.
And even with everything we've told you, obviously, do your research.
Yes.
Right? We're giving you information based on our experiences, things that we've done, but you should always do your own research, double check everything, and then triple check that.
Exactly.
All right.
And get those firsthand accounts from other people, like we said, in those Facebook groups and those other online communities. And
lastly, I guess think about the life that you want to build, right? Think about, as my wife said, in the earliest point, I think the first point is, you know, your imagination of what your life could be, right? Think about that and then see if it aligns with where you want to go. If you are like, I want to be somewhere that's warm all year round, well then you're not looking at going to like the Swiss Alps, right?
Exactly.
Like that's not going to work because it's cold, right? You have to say, okay, this is what I want, and what places at least fulfill this part of it, and then you can get into the little nuanced parts of it to see what else works and what doesn't.
Because you want to land someplace that's going to be the best for your mental health, the best for your overall health, and the best for your happiness. That's the whole point of, or one of the main points of taking this journey is I want to be my best and happiest self, and what part of the world is going to allow me to do that. So really consider the life that you want to create for yourself while you outline this path.
Go where you're celebrated.
So just to recap the things that we've talked about, again, consider the possibility of leaving. Let your imagination run wild, but then talk about your why. Why do you want to leave? The why, again, is going to drive you through this process. It's going to be the thing that you keep coming back to so you continue to plan out your journey and actually leave the country.
Set your date.
Set your date. That's right.
Make it tangible.
Make it tangible. Consider the pros and cons of leaving. Make your list. Go back to your list. Revisit your list. Make all those pros and cons, write it down, make it very plain to yourself so you know exactly what you're considering, the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Facts, facts. Research, 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 research.
Yes.
I wish I could actually, looking at what we've said, I wish I could pick apart and say this is the most important, but they're all equally important.
Yeah.
You have to do your research. It's great to make a decision and say, hey, I want to do this, I want to leave the country, but you have to do the proper research, and that again is, you know, cost of living, what are the laws like there, what's the culture like there, what's the food like there, right? You have to do your research. It's super, super important. And then there's, again, the daily life considerations. Right? We already talked about cost of living, climate, things of that nature. These are things that you have to do, right? These are the things we've detailed, and it's just important. If you really want to take that step to make that journey, we feel like these are important steps that you have to do, you have to take.
So in our next video, we're going to talk about visas, income, things you can do to make this dream a reality. Again, we want to see as many of you as possible take that next step, leave your home country, have a different experience, and really enjoy your life. That's what it's all about. We only get one time to do this thing.
YOLO? No, really, but no. Seriously, what she's saying is absolutely correct, right? It was not a decision we took lightly when we decided to leave the country, but it is something that we definitely, I don't regret, and I think I can.
I don't regret it either.
Don't regret it at all. It was amazing.
It still is amazing.
It still is amazing, but we will tell you, you know, this video was to help get you started. The next video, we're going to talk about some other parts, but there will be other videos as well. And within those videos, we're going to keep it real, right? It's not all sunshine and daisies living outside of the country. And we're going to discuss everything. Like all of it.
Give you the nitty gritty.
Right? So that, you know, you can make a really, what's what I'm looking for? You can make informed decision.
The best decision for you, where you are in your life and where you want to actually be in your life.
Exactly. So, you know,
Thank
you for rocking with us.
Absolutely. Let us know your plans. Let us know in the comments where you're planning to go, where you're considering going. We would love to interact with you and, you know, see what you have on board.
Even if you're already somewhere. And you just happened to cross a video and wanted to watch, let us know where you are, how long you've been there, and how you've been enjoying living outside of your home country. All right?
So, until next time.
You already know what it is.
It's legit.